Ah, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I'm CW. I'm in the dungeon that is books, travels, history, and tales. I'm gonna brush up on a couple of things because one, I got a great tale. It was made into a movie in 1991 by Oliver Stone called JFK, just to show you how far dramatic license can go. Students asked why they can't use the movie as a reference, and I said you can, but you can only use the date and the time of the main event because that's about it. The rest of it's all conjecture and made up. So, here are 10 things that are really wrong with the movie and why it isn't history. It's just a movie. I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but it's not a history movie. First thing it's wrong with the magic bullet theory. Why do we call it the magic bullet theory when it should be properly called the only bullet theory or no theory at all? Just a straight shot. You don't like it, I'm sorry. The shooter was above, comes down, goes through the soft part. It's the only way it could have happened. One bullet. But they said, well, wouldn't your best shot been first? I don't know. The guy wasn't a marksman. Well, actually, he was a marksman. I don't think he was much better than that. But he wasn't that good. So, yeah, it took 3 shots. And, yeah, you can get off 3 shots in that time frame. It's been proven. All right. So, the magic bullet theory. Not a theory. It just, they trot out the bullet and say, look how pristine this is. And it was found on the stretcher. Yeah, they only show the one side. They never roll it over to show you the flat side where it actually hit something hard, like a bone. And you go through 2 people. We know that no bones were hit in Kennedy on that shot. But it did hit several bones in Connolly. Okay. Number 2, in JFK they used the mafia as the main group, trying to get even. Because I hate to tell you this, but President Kennedy had a few girlfriends. One of them or 2 of them were associated with the mafia, and allegedly they got jealous. Highly doubtful. There is some connection between Kennedy's administration and organized crime, but their involvement is greatly exaggerated, not very accurate, or tends to go on to be speculative at best. The Cuban connection. Well, of course, the movie is going to imply that the Cuban government are exiles. Why not have both, right? Okay. Were involved in assassination. And there again, no real evidence of any of this was presented in the movie. Just a bunch of crap. That didn't stick to the wall. Well, then let's bring out the other group, the CIA. We've hit the mafia, the Cubans, both the government and the exiles. He didn't follow through, blah, 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 with the Bay of Pigs. So let's bring in the CIA. He said he would scatter it to the wind, and he did fire Dulles. Really? Is this a reason to kill the president? There's lots of allegations here, but the evidence is mostly circumstantial, and you can't get convictions on this as obvious because the only person ever tried was Clay Bertram or Clay Shaw. Which brings us to the Garrison involvement. Jim Garrison, the district attorney of the New Orleans district, went to the grand jury and got an indictment against Clay Shaw for the murder of President JFK. The way a grand jury works, it is very one-sided. There's only the evidence that the district attorney or state attorney presents. And listening to this guy weave story after story, because if you ever looked at any of his interviews or any stories about it, would go from 2 to 5 to 7 individuals involved. A guy shooting him through underneath the sewer pipes. That he was able to identify some through photographs. Not yet. Not really. They took him to trial, and then the movie said he got acquitted. Now, Clay Shaw went ahead and filed a suit against the district attorney's office for damages. Unfortunately, he passed away before any legal or monetary settlement could have been reached. Yep. And there's a little something that says that they admitted him, the CIA admitted that Clay Shaw was an operative. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. So let's just move on to there. The grasshopper theory. This film presents a theory about a man known as the grasshopper. It's dismissed, kind of suspected of no evidence to support it. Why is this even in here? The smoking gun, the lone nut theory. They said, really? Do you think Lee Harvey Oswald was that? He couldn't have done this. Just too many coincidences that he gets this job suddenly. And on that day, he took curtain rods wrapped up in bags to his work spot. I mean, obviously he couldn't escape because, well, obviously not. The CIA, as you know, should probably employ someone who had a driver's license longer than 10 days. That's right. Lee Harvey Oswald just got his license. That's one of the reasons he couldn't stay in Minsk, because they wanted him to be a truck driver. He didn't know how to drive. He didn't even have a car. So always when you're trying to get away from an assassination, you want to hop into a cab or use the city bus first. Yeah. He's a patsy, all right. Smoking gun. Yeah, these claims that there's tapes that show that there's a conspiracy. Well, then just show the tapes. Well, they don't. They don't exist. One thing that does exist is Lee Harvey Oswald did shoot at, I can't remember his name, but he was with the John Birch Society prior to this. So yeah, he's nuts. Just that. Great use of dramatic license. Hey, you gotta make a movie, you gotta have some sort of use. You can't rely on a historical event to be accurate, so you gotta liven it up. And the impact upon public opinion. Yeah, so many people now thought there was a conspiracy because, well, I guess they're stupid. It really soared in the 70s that people thought there was a conspiracy to kill the president. There's no evidence. Dan Rather, a newsman at 50, said, like, it's been so many years. We would have found it by now if there was a conspiracy. They would have. How many people would have to be on board to cover this story, to make it where it's just that? Oh, and we'll have Jack Ruby kill him, and that'll silence him. Really? Well, you should have probably done this before they got him in the theater, because, because then he gets a chance to talk. I mean, he got to talk to his brother. And his brother never doubted his guilt for one moment. It was sad. It was a bad day. It's one of those days where you remember where you were. Well, I did not. I mean, I do remember a couple of things, but I was just 4. I remember we just got a black and white TV that was one of those big console things. And every time I turn on the TV, JFK's funeral or JFK's movement, all this in black and white. So if this is all TV has to offer, I'm not going to be watching it. But that's a few things that are wrong with JFK. If you ask many conspirator theorists out there, well, why don't you just review the evidence? Oh, it's bogus. Most of them never even looked at the Warren Commission. Those guys, there's 26 volumes, statements, timelines, evidence. Might help. A lot of people have written books about it. My favorite's Reclaiming History. So if you ever got time, you can read that one. It's over 1,000 pages. Well, that's history. It's all in the past. See you tomorrow. We'll talk about today. Happy birthday, Debbie.